Now, that report shed light on the growing crisis of drug use in Kenyan universities, with troubling statistics on accessibility, peer influence, and even the involvement of some university staff as far as distribution of drugs is concerned. Now, to help us make sense and get the full scope of this issue and what's driving it, and most importantly, what can be done to address it, Amos Warwe is here with us, Principal Compliance Officer at NACADA. Now, Amos is at the forefront of enforcement and policy compliance when it comes to substance control, making him the perfect person to help us break this down. Mr. Amos, good morning.
Good morning, Ferraris.
How are you? Are you feeling rested?
I'm rested now. Thank you. Here I am.
We are so sorry that you even had to take that entire trip to the CBD.
No
to Lihama.
worries. No worries. Now I'm Lihama.
Do you like our new offices, by the way?
It's a nice place. Very peaceful, quiet, and lovely.
Good.
Thank you.
If you got here earlier, maybe we would have had a cup of coffee, but it's okay. We can still do that.
We'll still do it after the show.
After the show. Fantastic.
Yeah. Yes.
Now, given that we've lost a considerable amount of time, but not to worry, because we still have to cover the most important parts of what has brought us here. Now, the numbers from this report are quite concerning. And alcohol, cigarettes, shisha, and even vaping products are not only accessible but widely used among university students. Now, almost 90% of students can access alcohol easily. And from your perspective, that's what I want to find out first. Just how bad is the situation right now, and has this problem worsened over the years, or is it just something that's started now?
Oh, thank you, Ferraris. Just like you put it, is that we have a big concern about the issue of substances abuse in this country. And the survey, which was targeting university students, have laid bare the facts. We have seen that alcohol is a leading substance of abuse at 87.3. Then we have the cigarettes at 64, and the bangi at 61.7. And now we also have bangi in other form, what you are calling edible cannabis. This is in form of cookies, in form of cakes. Sometimes you even find it in mutura and even in some soup.
What?
It's being prepared as a food, but you eat it, not you don't smoke it raw. Then we also have shisha. It's also another big concern at 41. And muguka is also coming on board, and mira. And the vape now at 31. So these are serious issues, and like you have asked, is that I think it's a problem which has been building up over time, but this time round we have realized it has really gotten beyond what was normal previously. And I think there are a number of reasons why we can attribute to this current situation. One is that we realized that during COVID, we had most of the comrades, I call them, who are in the uni now, they were mainly in high school. And during COVID, we also realized that we had an upsurge of substance use when most young people those days were at home for almost 1 year. And we realized that because they had a lot of free time and there was a lot of hopelessness and uncertainty and all that, most people went into drugs, including the general public. And we realized that especially for the ladies, allow me to point this out, there was a trend whereby most big proportion went into smoking bangi.
Oh, wow.
For a number of reasons. One was that, you see, if you're a parent and you have a boy and a girl at home, chances are that when you get home from work, you'll ask, where is the girl? Where is Ashiko? Where is Shireen? And the like. Boys, you are not very much concerned. So it ended up like most of them went into bangi, because bangi you'll smoke and go back to your bedroom, and when you're not smoking, it doesn't smell, so nobody will pick it. For boys, they do alcohol, which is possible. You can identify when somebody has hit one for the road.
Yeah.
So all these circumstances and also issues to do with the parenting styles. We have seen of late that most parents, I don't know whether we have become too busy. We are not directly involved in the lives of our children. Sometimes they get out of the way and we don't realize. You are called to in school or campus, you're told your kid is using drugs. You're like, no, the kid I know doesn't. but the kid will admit, yes, I'm doing it. So there are all those factors, and among many others, even the way society has accepted, somehow it becomes normal for people to drink and all that. Whereas initially there were some controls.
Yeah.
And I think all those factors are contributing to the situation we have seen at the universities.
And you point to an issue that makes me think: is this social pressures around the youth that we're addressing, financial independence, because we're also seeing a lot of people who are starting to get money at a very, very young age? Or could it be something else? Because then money gives you access, correct? And you have this freedom where you can get to do whatever it is that you want. So would these two maybe be contributing factors to this?
Indeed, they are. They are some of the key contributing factors. One, remember, Ferraris, is that when our youth move from secondary school to university, they have all the freedom. In secondary school, they're in a controlled environment because there's a timetable, they are deciding there. But when they go to university, you're on your own. And that's why we realize that most of them are getting out of the way because there's a freedom. They are getting their allowances from their parents, and they are not living mainly with their parents. They're in the hostels, either within the university or outside. So with all that freedom and also the peer pressure and the influence from the others and the environment they're operating in, those who are not well grounded have ended up using drugs.
How are they getting access to? Actually, it's not even about the students. For me, I'm looking at how are these drugs getting into campuses and who's behind the distribution, because I most certainly wouldn't think the students are the ones that get them from the source. So there has to be a source somewhere. So maybe the bigger conversation here would be who's behind it all.
Okay, good question. Now, there are a number of sources from the survey because the students shared with us where they source their supplies from. And the main source is friends. First, they're introduced by friends. You go to a party, a bash, you're introduced, then you get hooked and you join the rain. Now, the friends are the ones, some within the university or outside. Then you also have the canteens or the bars and the outlets around there, especially for alcohol. The rigid drugs, alcohol, cigarettes and all that, they can access them from all the outlets.
Correct.
But for the illicit drugs or the illegal drugs like bangi, we have seen that the suppliers or the traffickers, they are even within the universities. Sometimes they recruit students who now become the suppliers. And there was also an element that some of the staff working in universities are also contributing to the supply.
When you say staff, the lecturers are also amongst this?
Yes, group. It was a small proportion, even the non-teaching staff. So the source is from all over, and it's worrying. It's very worrying.
I'll veer off a little bit from the NACADA report. And if we know for sure that universities are a breeding ground for drug distribution, and NACADA as an authority would have maybe the resources to really nail down the machinery behind the distribution of these drugs, because yes, we can address the issues that the students are partaking in this and it's not good for them. But again, going back to the bigger picture, who are these people? Are we talking about people who might probably be in government and enjoy the protection of the law in terms of being drug traffickers? I mean, we've read the headlines, seen it before, where known persons have been accused and sometimes even blocked from international travel because drug trade falls within, something that they are known for. So as NACADA, how easy or hard is it for you to nail down some of these people that have so much power and could be behind this?
Thank you. As NACADA, we have been doing a lot, which sometimes doesn't come out in the open.
I will tell you, people in the public think NACADA is just but a body that comes out with reports and tells us, Mutudo, don't open a bar at this time, move this shop from here, but we don't know the work that you do when it comes to addressing the bigger problem.
Actually, that could be the perception, which is not the right position, because issues of drug control is an enforcement and security issue.
Correct.
There are a lot of investigations to be done and all that. And you don't want to blow everything you're doing. Sometimes you even do undercover. Because these guys, the peddlers and everyone involved, they're also smart. They're trying to they know it's illegal, and they're trying to do what they can to ensure that they're not caught. But as NACADA, we do a lot in conjunction with other government agencies. We work very closely with the police, of course, the DCI, and especially the Anti-Narcotic Police Unit at DCI, the police, the National Administration officers all over the country. And recently, we now have a fully established enforcement unit. We have police officers attached to NACADA, and they are helping us a lot. We also get a lot of information, and I also want to use this opportunity to request members of public to share with us any information, because sometimes you just need a hint to get to know what's happening, upon which you now start investigating and getting around. Actually, there has been a lot of successful raids and arrests. It's only that sometimes all these things are not in the media.
Correct.
We do so many raids, we do so many investigations with other agencies, and it has been very successful. If we have not been doing what we are doing, Ferrari, it would have been worse, I can assure you.
Really?
It would have been worse. So a lot has been happening, and we are calling upon everyone in the society, because we are saying this problem is not a NACADA's problem, it's for all of us Kenyans, and everyone has a lot to play. In your own small capacity, if you see something going wrong, you report, or you let us know, and you have many mechanisms. And allow me maybe even to mention, we have a toll-free line, 1192 1192, which anyone can call and report, any incident from all over the country, and we take action, and we have been doing that. Whether it is the Fide of Kenya, whether it's Moyale, Mandera, whether it's Kisumu, or whatever, even Mombasa and other places, because now we are widely spread, and we have our officers all over the country. So a lot is happening. It's only that we don't like shouting too much, but it would have been worse if we have not been doing what you're doing now. Yes, please.
You know, one of the things that, and I'm happy that there's a toll-free line. Maybe you can repeat that number to us.
Yes.
It's
1192 1192.
1192 is the toll-free number where you can report anything that or any persons that you know.
Yes, and also you can get assistance. We also have counselors on that line for those who are suffering from substance use disorders, or they require some guidance. You can still call that number and you'll be assisted. And it's a 24 hours.
It's a 24-hour line.
Line.
Yeah, you had it here first. There's a toll-free line for NACADA. And again, outside of this report, because this report captures alcohol, shisha, vapes, but I want to squarely look at what would categorize as mind-altering substances that maybe fall within a different class. I don't have, the right, maybe the appropriate word, but from my research, I've seen these, of course, very big use and rising use of things called psychedelics. So it's substances that are not even easily recognizable.
Yep.
They come in pill form. You have, of course, cocaine, which of course, because of the price it goes for, it's not a drug that maybe you'd find in campuses, but of course it's still prevalent. But the places and the dens you'd find these clubs and the users is on the high end, side of the clubs and all of that. I'd maybe want to get your comments on that, because there's a particular establishment that of course had an incident, and somebody died within that establishment. It's not drug related or whatever, but it's a known drug zone. So what's NACADA really doing about that?
Okay, thank you. Actually, what you're talking about is what you're calling emerging drugs. Every day we are having new drugs coming, and also now we are living in a global village where, and with the social media, internet, you can know like now what's happening in US when you are seated here.
Correct.
And our people, especially the youth, they are seeing all over what's happening. And even the pushers for these drugs, they also try to market them and advertise them. And the thing is that we always want to go for the latest in whatever category of anything you're looking for. You want the latest. That's a big concern for us. And as NACADA, what we're doing, like I told you, we don't work alone. Like such drugs, they normally come outside the country. Though there are incidences where you find some even being manufactured in the labs. But in Kenya, NACADA, together with other agencies, we have ensured that has not happened. We only had one incident some time back, and it was nabbed just before it started. So what has been happening is that we are also very vigilant at our entry points, mainly at the airports and the like.
Yeah.
And I know you have been even seeing in the media of guys sometimes coming, carrying them in their body, swallowing pirates and all that. Like I think over the weekend there was an incident.
Oh.
And so with all these surveillance and the issues of monitoring what's happening, even getting to know who is doing what and profiling and all that, that's what we are trying to do to ensure that we don't have them here. We also keep on issuing constant media alerts, including press releases regarding what's happening, so that people are also aware, so that they are aware of what's happening and they can be on the lookout. Because some of the times, Ferraris, you realize when somebody is getting to this, sometimes they are not aware. Somebody introduces you to some stuff and you think it's just a good thing. But by the time you realize it's drug, you're already hooked and you're now looking for the supplier because your body is itching for it. So the awareness aspect is also a very big part of what we do. And also reminding people that you are responsible for your actions and what you do. NACADA cannot police you around. And you're telling you have your life.
Yeah.
And you want the best out of you because you also have a lot to play in contributing to the development of our country.
Correct.
Like now for our university students, they are their prime age. This is when they are getting the skills they require for them to go out to the labor market. So when you get messed up with drugs, your life is wasted and it affects so many people, including your family, your parents, and everyone else. And ultimately the country at large.
If you're just joining us, we are in conversation with Amos Warui, the Principal Compliance Officer at NACADA, and you can catch this interview because we're live streaming on YouTube, on X, and on Facebook, not at Facebook. And our handles are at Capital FM Kenya. That's how you can find us. Now, the question of accountability is something that I want to bring into this because, like I mentioned, like say the known drug den where there was an incident over the weekend, it has been associated with a current CS or someone in government. And, when I had earlier pointed out that we've had screaming headlines about, previous people in government, I mean the likes of Harun Mwau, which I can go on record having said that because there was investigations to him, and other known persons that come with a certain power and authority. How do we then go on about to start holding those accountable? Because I feel when I look at the chain of command when it comes to distribution of drugs, you will nab the peddler who sits maybe at the bottom of the food chain. That's a person that just goes and interacts. He knows his customers. But his supplier and the person calling the shots is rarely ever arrested or held accountable. How is NACADA looking to address that?
Thank you. Actually, in our one of the strategies is that we target the source. Because once you stop the river from the source, it doesn't flow downstream. That's what we have been trying to do, and we work a lot. And I told you this is not an NACADA standalone assignment. We are doing it with many, even international agencies. Because some of these drugs, like we said, they are not manufactured in Kenya. They're imported through the illegal routes and the porous borders.
Yeah.
And a lot has been happening. And as I mentioned earlier, I will not go in public, but I can tell you, if what we are doing has not been done, it would have been worse.
Yeah.
So in that sense, we have been doing a lot. And I think, I don't think you remember of late when we have any big haul recovered in Kenya. It is a while since the last time the former president blew a ship in Mombasa, almost about 9 years ago. That means that the enforcement strategies which have been put in place are working. The surveillance, the issues of collaboration with other agencies and countries. And I think that's what has made us to be where we are. But we are not letting off the guard because we know the problem is still there. Only that maybe the quantities are small, the ones being smuggled here and there. But there have been a number of arrests being made still. Yeah. And I think we are on the right course, but we are calling everybody to come on board and support us in this fight because it's a big fight.
Yeah. It's we're looking at also an evolving world where nowadays access to things is on the click of a button.
Indeed.
So I go on my phone, find a website somewhere where someone could be selling these things. Yeah. So I don't know if NACADA is up to speed with how fast things are changing, because we could still be trying to look at things on the ground. We go read a shisha den or whatever. Someone will buy a shisha bong and smoke it in their house. It will not stop them from smoking. Yeah. So the issue is not the place where they are going to smoke it. It is the fact that they can access the equipment.
The source.
Exactly, the
Yes,
source for them
yeah.
to smoke these things at home. So I want to squarely look at digital, the role that the digital space
Yes.
plays when it comes to distribution and access of drugs by students and every other person that wants to access this. Does NACADA have a mechanism of, nabbing these websites?
Now, a very pertinent question you have asked, because actually from our survey, we realized that the respondents, 39.4%, reported that they access their substances through online channels,
Oh, wow.
through WhatsApp, any online channel. And what NACADA is doing, we have made a proposition to the amendments of the relevant laws to ban such, because the risk is that when these things are being sold online, anyone can access them, even a small child. You just need to have the phone or whatever you're using to liaise with the supplier. You place your order and it's brought. Even things like alcohol, whereas we know in Kenya, alcohol is not supposed to be sold to persons under 18 years.
Correct.
But we have seen situations where by kids, they place an order and it's delivered at home because the delivery boy doesn't care who is picking, provided the payment is made. So we are making a proposition to amendments of relevant laws to control this online trade, because on these, especially the legit, the licensed products, so that we can ensure that they are not accessed online, because it's a big problem also.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting that we speak about, accessibility to things like, and I'm going to focus on alcohol. And there's a certain report that came out, this was end of January, on 25th of January, that said that for some reason, there's been a decline in terms of how Gen Z are not drinking as much. So Gen Z is anyone that falls within the age bracket of, I think, 28 going backwards. And for them, the report, of course, didn't detail what their preference in terms of vices looks like, but there's been a significant drop in terms of interest in alcohol. And this is from a survey that was done. Adults under the age of 35 say their drinking dropped from 10% to from 72% to 62%, and that number is slowly declining.
Okay.
So in comes the emerging drugs,
Yeah.
where they do not feel the need to consume alcohol. So as a country, we of course still have to address the issues of alcohol.
Indeed.
I mean, and these counties where that is very, very notorious. But of course, on a demographic that is significantly older. But if we're going to speak about the kids in universities, those are falling within the Gen Z bracket, and I don't know what other generation is called, but I don't think alcohol is their issue. Their issue is the emerging drugs, and I thought I would point out that statistic that really jumped out at me, and that's why the digital conversation comes in, because for them the interest to buy alcohol from all of these hailing platforms is not there, but they found ways of creating pages on the social medias and whatever to access the emerging drugs that you're talking about. So is there monitoring? Because monitoring would be one aspect of it, and then now nailing the people that are behind the distribution, and then of course the source.
Yeah, thank you for that good observation. Actually, I'll take you back to a survey, a national survey now targeting the whole population of Kenya, which we released last year. And it showed that there was a marginal increase in use of bangi in the whole Kenyan population, to an extent that it was a sharp increase. So maybe what you are referring to could be also reflected on the same.
Yeah.
Because even from the survey which was released the other day by NACADA, we saw now bangi is also quite high. Like I told you, it's being used or smoked in many ways. You can smoke, you can have it in cookies, you can have it in motura, you can have it. It's coming in many forms and shapes. You can even have it in mabuyu. You know the mabuyu?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are being coated. You can even have weed juice, So it's coming in many forms and shapes.
So in short, Amos, what you're telling us is someone gives you something to eat, interrogate first.
Please do. You are not sure what it is. Do you know, and I'm sorry to report that we have even seen instances where they're even spiking birthday cakes for kids, You know those small kids? So that if your kids go for a birthday party, the cake they eat to excite them. You know, bang is a stimulant, so they feel nice. You know, so the kid, your kid will tell you, next time I'm having a birthday, ask Mama so and so where they procured the cake because it was so nice. You know, something like that. So I think the issue of drugs, the way you are saying, because they have an option now, maybe because of the bangi, like the bangi, the way you are saying, I think that's why it could explain why alcohol is coming down, because they have other alternatives.
There's alternatives,
and which are even maybe cheaper, and they bring them high very fast. You know, all those things.
It's I like this report, and I'd want us to get a little bit more into it and just look at other things that were pointed out, including certain recommendations that were given from NACADA. One of them being, of course, the extending the 300-meter rule distance that currently exists to restrict alcohol sales near primary and secondary schools, which I know there's been enough headlines about how, you know, high school kids have become a very big target. So the conversation now is shifting, and the age group is going slowly and slowly down, that kids as old as 12, 13, 14, kids in their teens are getting exposed to drugs courtesy of either where they go to school. And also, maybe when we come back, you can tell us what role parents are playing when it comes to the fight against drugs and substance abuse, because yes, we really cannot distance ourselves from that fight. And also how everybody else can get involved, because a nation really has to rally behind such a fight. It's not just the obligation and fight for NACADA, and it's not a fight just for the authorities and police. It's a fight that starts with me and Moses here, or just about anyone. So we'll come back, and you can also remind us about that toll-free number.
Indeed.
This is 984 in the morning with Amos Waroe of NACADA, where we're discussing everything to do with the report that was launched on February 18th. You want to stick around for that? We'll be right back after the news.
This is Capital in the Morning Breakfast Show.
The best mix of music. Capital FM. The best mix of music. Capital FM.
Capital News Beat.
Sudanese RSF and political groups to hold joint briefing in Nairobi, court to rule on new charge against Juja MP Koimburi, and Israel prepares to receive fast-dead hostages from Hamas. Good morning, I'm Davis Ayega.
Capital News Beat.
The Rapid Support Forces of Sudan, in collaboration with political, civil and social groups as well as armed struggle movements, are set to hold a joint press briefing here in Nairobi today. The event will take place at the Radisson Blue Arboretum Hotel amid ongoing efforts to address Sudan's political and security situation. The press conference is expected to shed light on key developments, including the ongoing conflict, peace negotiations, and potential pathways to stability in Sudan. It comes at a time the Sudan military-led government has accused Kenya of meddling in its affairs, an allegation that Kenyan officials have denied. A Kiambu court is today set to rule on whether Juja Member of Parliament George Ndungu Koimburi will face an additional charge for missing a previous court session. Koimburi was arrested on Tuesday, faces 6 charges, 3 for forgery and 3 for uttering false documents. The prosecution alleges he forged a KCSE certificate back in 1994 and 2 J-Quad certificates which he presented to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission in 2021. He yesterday pleaded not guilty before Senior Principal Magistrate Mwanamkuu Mwakambirwa and was released on a 200,000 shillings cash bail. National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula has reiterated Kenya's commitment to the African Union following the outcome of the Commission's chairperson election, in which Kenya's candidate Raila Odinga was unsuccessful. Wetangula, while addressing the election, emphasized that Odinga's bid was not a personal endeavor but a collective Kenyan aspiration. Despite the setback, Wetangula reaffirmed Kenya's commitment to Pan-Africanism and the AU's agenda, calling for increased efforts for free Africa from poverty and underdevelopment. The speaker urged the newly elected AUC chairperson Djibouti's foreign minister Yusuf Abdi Mohammed to work with all the African nations regardless of their voting positions in the election. And finally, Hamas is to transfer to Israel the bodies of 4 hostages who have been held in Gaza since being taken alive in the group's attack on Israel on the 7th of October of 2023. It has said they include a mother and 2 children from the Bibas family whose unknown fate has gripped Israel since then. The youngest child, Kifr, was 9 months old. Hamas says the 4th body is that of an 84-year-old veteran peace activist. It will mark the first time the group will have handed over dead hostages since the ceasefire began last month. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the heart of the entire nation is torn, adding that Israel was dealing with monsters. 6 living hostages are due to be freed on Saturday. For more on this and other stories, dial star 411 star 4#. That's Capital News, but my name is Davis Ayega. You're up to date at 3 minutes past 9.
Capital News Beat. Capital Weather.
Let's get you informed and ready for the day as we look at the skies. Kakamega, clear skies dominate the morning, starting your day at 16 degrees high. Limuru, mostly cloudy morning, highs of 25 degrees. And here at the capital in Nairobi, clear skies dominate most of the morning. Temperatures expected to pick up at around 11 o'clock at 19 degrees. And if you're all the way across in Eldoret, currently the temperatures stand at 16 degrees. Expect a mid-morning thunderstorm followed by considerable cloudy weather towards mid-morning and in the afternoon. That's your weather update at 4 minutes past 9 o'clock.
Rain or shine, we play the best mix of music all day long. 98.4 Capital FM. Hashtag appoint IEBC now.
I know how to make you happy.
Here's a breakfast instant request.
Flashing Lights, another of my favorites, bringing us to the last hour of our show. Is this where I start crying? And the show is 9:84 in the morning with myself, Hilaris, and Chico Lawi. And we're joined in studio by Amos Waroi, the Principal Compliance Officer at NACADA. And if you're just joining us, you can always live stream this conversation, though we are at the tail end of it because I only have 2 questions to Mr. Amos. You can catch us on our live stream on YouTube, on the Capital FM channel, on our X handle, that's at Capital FM Kenya, and on Facebook going by the same handle. Now, Evans here, I mean not Evans, Amos, I don't know who Evans is and why I'm thinking about him, but I don't have an Evans in my life, I can tell you that for sure. We've been here discussing so many things that came out of the report that NACADA released on 18th of February, but I want us now to really look at matters on ground. And the report did recommend that bars and these joints not to extend the proximity. So it currently stands at 300 meters. But now for me, I always look at the big picture. And the big picture here is, first of all, counties and the role that they play in terms of licensing, because there's no way I as Felaris I'm going to go outside there and open a bar without having gone through a process. Yes. And I know obtaining a liquor license in this country is one of those, it's a difficult task. But if we're having an increase in terms of the mushrooming number of bars, it clearly tells you that the process is either not being duly followed, or there's not illegal licensing, but people are pocketing money somewhere to make sure that they expedite on people's licenses. So I know historically NACADA used to issue the permits, but before we came on air, you did tell me something very interesting, that now that is no longer the function of NACADA. Who's doing it?
All right, thank you, Ferrari. And I think it's good for that question, so that you also make our listeners understand the role and mandate of NACADA. As you rightly put it, is that before the new constitution, NACADA used to license all alcoholic outlets in the country. But with the devolution, that function was devolved to county governments. So nowadays, it's the respective counties which issue licenses for alcoholic outlets. Mm-hmm. And so anything to do with the licensing, the bars, the location, and all that is squarely the mandate of the county. So as NACADA, how we get involved is that we also monitor what's happening, and where we find non-compliance with the respective law, especially the national law, which is the Alcoholic Drinks Control Act, which provides for like some of the issues we raise, like the 300 meters rule. We raise it up with the counties. And there are a number of issues, but currently it's the counties who are implementing the licensing.
Who's overseeing the counties? Because when you take away power, this was a lot of power that NACADA used to hold. Mm-hmm. And allow me to ask just how much you used to make in terms of collections from licensing alone.
I might not have the
the actual figures
on my fingers,
estimates.
But it was quite a number of millions.
Ooh.
But that was national now.
National,
we are doing
exactly.
it the whole country.
Correct.
So when counties came now, they are doing it in their areas. Mm-hmm. And one of the challenges we have seen is that some counties have seen that function as also another source of revenue.
It's lucrative business.
Such that they have increased the outlets. Because across the board, I think we have more outlets now than we had when NACADA was doing it.
Correct.
And what we have been talking to the county governments is letting them understand and imploring upon them to appreciate that licensing is a control mechanism.
Correct.
Meaning that not everybody qualifies, and we don't want also to have these licenses issued for everyone.
Correct.
We have a charge like in the residential areas also, apart from the 300 meters rule. The Alcoholic Drinks Control Act also outlaws having alcoholic outlets in residential areas. Because where you live is supposed to be your haven.
Correct.
It should be a peaceful place, you relax and you rest after a day of hard work.
Yeah.
But there are some places you find residents complaining. There are clubs which are playing loud music.
Oh,
and all
yes.
That. So those have been some of the challenges. But we keep on engaging, because even people still through the toll-free number I gave you, 1192, we also get reports of non-compliance. And when that happens, we get in touch with the respective counties. And nowadays, as I had mentioned earlier, we also have our own enforcement unit where we also go and support them. Or where it's not possible, nothing is being done, our unit is also going and ensuring that the law is complied with. Yes, please.
You've brought up something very interesting about how bars and entertainment joints have really just crept into residential areas. And I was just thinking about how over the last 1 or 2 years, if you drive down, for example, Kiambu Road, every 100 meters, there is a liquor store, there is a bar, there is a club. I mean, access is there, and clearly licensing has now become a business for the counties, a revenue earning sort of like tool, yeah, just like, you know, other licenses and permits. But alcohol is very sensitive and should not be taken as that thing where permits are issued to everybody. Now, which again begs the question, NACADA at county level, is it represented as a body, or does it just sit at national level at your NSSF offices?
We are represented, and we are expanding gradually. Currently, we are in 19. We are in 19 counties, and I can assure you there are plans in place to ensure that maybe by June or thereabout, we'll have more offices being opened. And the whole idea is that we want to be where the problem is. We want to be where we can have direct access to the people. We engage them, we talk to them, and we see how we can bring them on board in this campaign.
Correct.
So we are not only at the headquarters, we are all over the country. We are all over the country.
That's good to hear. So my last question to you would be, now that, you know, we've identified the problem, all of these solutions NACADA is trying to, recommendations, that NACADA has put forward, and of course with enforcement and having direct influence and working with different bodies to deal with the problem. My question is squarely now around, how do we involve everybody, society at large, in the fight against drugs and substance abuse?
Thank you. That's a very good question. And actually, that's what we have been hammering. And the point is that we all have a responsibility in the campaign against alcohol and drug abuse. Because what you're saying, Ferraris, is that we are all affected. Actually, it's reaching a point where it is like how it used to be when we had HIV campaigns.
Correct.
You know, those initial years where we are saying if you're not affected, if you're not infected, you're affected. Today, you rarely find a family who do not have a case of one member who is suffering from alcohol or other substance of abuse. So we are saying the first thing is let's take our personal responsibilities at our own personal level.
Correct.
Do what is right, and let's know the dangers about this. Then there's also the aspect of the parenting. Because we have realized that most parents of late, they are not the best role models for their children. They go out with them in these places. These kids are observing these things. They stock this stuff in their houses and all that the kids are seeing. And you remember the kids, they know their parents are their role models. Whatever mom does, whatever dad does is the best.
Correct.
So when they come of age, or even before, it will not be a surprise if you go home and you have this stuff in your house, you find your kid is tipsy. You ask them what happened. They said, we took the stuff you always take, you know. So we are saying let's be good role models. Even the churches, our religious leaders, even our political leaders, community champions, everyone, if we all play a role, will be good. Also, the issue of our schools and even the universities, like you are saying, we're asking them to come up with policies to ensure that they make the institutions alcohol and drugs free. I know, like we saw in the survey, one of the areas or the sources of these drugs is friends and canteens within the campuses. As NACADA, we have been proposing, now that the law talks of over 18, access not to under 18, but you know in university they are more than 18. It could still be a good idea to ban alcohol in the universities, because in some campuses you find they sell alcohol in their canteens. And I'm glad, allow me to mention that we have been working with universities and some are seeing the need. And allow me to mention here that a university like JKUAT, with the involvement of the student body and the administration, they have removed alcohol within their premises. Such that a student, you know, when something is so accessible, you're so tempted. We are humans. So let's, if all that is done, then also the issue of the law enforcement, because that's another key aspect. Even those of us who are responsible of enforcing the law, we also do it in the right way, so that when somebody is arrested with such, let's pursue justice to the end. The issue of corruption and all that, because that's also another challenge we are facing. And when we do that, I think our community, our society will be okay and we'll learn away from this problem.
Very, very insightful recommendations from Amos Waroye, Principal Compliance Officer at NACADA, who's joined us for this very, very, very important conversation. And really, it's been eye-opening, and it's clear that addressing drug abuse in universities and society as a collective requires our collective it's our collective responsibility, not only just for them as an enforcement authority, but is also a responsibility for policymakers, institutions, parents, and even to us as individuals. Thank you so much, Amos. We look forward to having more conversations with you around this, and also just to celebrate big wins that Nakada would end up having when it comes to this fight. This is 984 in the morning with myself, Elaris, and Chico. This is our request hour, so send in your request. We're going to be playing them. We've eaten a bit into your time, but worry not. We've got you until 10 o'clock. Do not touch that dial. We'll be right back with nothing but the best mix of music.